Hello and welcome to Artsee Magazine and Artsee Live. I'm Ben Farrell. We're here today with Eric Raddatz, photographer and hospice chaplain. Eric, thank you for being here. And can we start by just asking, how did you first get into photography?
Well, if I remember correctly, it was probably somewhere in high school that I took a photography class and I had a little brownie Hawkeye. And actually the best picture I took, and the one that I entered into the class contest, was actually an abstract picture of the wrought iron legs on our patio furniture. But it wasn't until years and years later that I really got into it. It was in the 1970s. And that was after I stumbled onto Time Lifebook photography and just was inspired by Ernst Haas, who had most of the color photographs in there. And he would take pictures of anything. And the color that he brought out, from a rodeo rider blurred in motion to an oil slick in the water, I was just like, it's not just flowers that are color in the world, that there's a whole nother world out there. So in a lot of ways, that's when I started. Picked up a old Canon and then went out and started shooting and discovering a whole nother world out there.
Some would describe your photographs as paintings. Why do they do that?
Oh, well, I remember once the Alliance of AIDS Services sponsors party, I took one of my photographs. It was called Red, and it was sitting out there framed, and a guy I was talking to inside the house, we talked about photography and all this, and he said, "I'd love to see yours." And I said, "Well, it's out there. It's the red one." So he went out and he looked around, looked around, looked around. He came back, "I can't see it." So I took him out and showed it to him. And he says, "Oh, I thought that was a painting." And to me, I thought that was a thrill, because to me it was someplace in there I crossed a line where the expression has already been made, and it's just as it was, the red is just the front of a red tank in a cattle yard, but just being that close to it and the lines and how it was designed, I like that very much. To me, they're very painterly, but yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's kind of cool.
You mentioned shooting in such detail. Can you talk a little more about that?
Oh, I can look pretty foolish sometimes. People look and they see this guy walking around, and what is he doing? Especially in the last year, I've been just going to parking garages on a Sunday when there's no cars, and go up and look at the walls and look over the wall to see the stains and how they form, and it can be a picture of a whole wall, or it can just be a spot that big. But I'll find this thing, and I said, "Oh, this could be really interesting if the film," because I shoot with film, it can translate to the camera. Sometimes you take one and it's too subtle and it doesn't translate, but it's just, people are kind of like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just taking a picture." It's usually the rent-a-cops, the guards, who come over and say, "Well, sir, you can't take pictures in here in the parking lot. It's against the rules." So then you leave and you lose a parking lot. But it's just, it's a whole world out there, and I like finding it and the discovery of it.
How would you say your work with the AIDS ministry and as a hospice chaplain has affected your art?
In a lot of ways, because of the hardships that I had to deal with and the emotional ups and downs, dealing with illness and death and dying, the photography in a large sense became an escape. It was a place that was just mine. And I always felt, if you're going to be doing something like I do, and be trying to give as much as I can to help people be comforted and find peace and everything else in the situations, that I have to have something that's my own. that is totally selfish, and so the photography actually became that. I could go out by myself, I'd get in my car and like, oh, I guess I'll travel Highway 64 today, and stop at every town on the way or old building, and then just walk the alleys and walk around and see what I could discover. And then, of course, we used to do the retreats down at Caswell, the Baptist place down there, and there's all these old fort emplacements, gun emplacements there. And you can wander around in there, and all the stains and the mold and everything else. It's just like a veritable heaven for a photographer who does things like I do. Mm-hmm. So I also took a lot of pictures of the people and who came to the retreats. I just loved shooting the pictures of them, candid shots, having just so much fun with them. And you know, some go, no, I don't want my picture taken. Well, those are some of my favorite pictures, is with the hand in the face. And then they get comfortable with it and just have fun. So.